This is gonna take crackerjack timing, Wang.
Total concentration. You ready, Jack?
I was born ready.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and it's been well over a year since DC Comics announced DC Black Label, which was supposed to be the very best writers working with the very best artists on Elseworld stories that were, premium price but premium quality product. Obviously, that has changed a bit, but we have received a lot of the comic books that were initially promised to us. Batman Damned has come out, Batman Last Night on Earth, Superman Year One. We know Batman 3 Jokers is about to come out. And I thought we lost a lot of them. There was supposed to be a Wonder Woman, Greg Rucka story. I feel like Daniel Warren Johnson ended up kind of taking that slot. Kelly Sue DeConnick, Aquaman, was supposed to be in there. It feels like she's probably taken that when she went over to Aquaman herself. But there's another title out there called The Other Histories of the DC Universe that was promised. We hadn't received. I thought it had been dropped, but apparently it is not. It will be coming out soon. And here to talk with me about that is my good friend Perch from Comics by Perch. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, we're talking about new comics, so that's exciting.
Definitely excited to have new comic news. And if you're here for the news and you haven't subscribed to Thinking Critical yet, you're crazy. You need to subscribe to the channel. We will cover all the comic book news that you could want. We also have opinion pieces and things like that. Enter a comic review from time to time. And definitely, if you enjoy the news that we're bringing you today, give us a thumbs up. If you don't enjoy it, you think we're a couple of idiots, give us an enormous thumbs down. Either way, we want to hear your feedback in the comments section. We love interacting with the viewers. And if you enjoy Perch, there is a link in the video description to his channel. And at the end, you will have a chance to subscribe to his channel there as well. So this is somewhat of a big deal. The Other Histories of the DC Universe. I think it was originally going to be an 8 or 9 part miniseries, but it's been reduced. It's going to be I think a 5-part bi-monthly miniseries from screenwriter John Ridley, most notably of 12 Years of Slave fame. And it's going to kind of I think it's going to view, I'm not sure if it's actually historical events or historical events in the DC universe through the eyes of marginalized characters.
Yeah, that's more or less right. The series has bounced around a little bit. I think there was some confusion on its original length, and then in 2018 was when it was announced, and it was planned in 2019 to come out, and then it kind of went quiet. A lot of people thought and speculated the project itself was dead. We're learning now a little bit more that it was more based around John Ridley's schedule and kind of some things that were completely outside of comics. But it is 5-part series now. And it is, at least from what I understand, it's going to look at kind of big comic book moments, but the central role that characters like Black Lightning, Renee Montoya played in those moments.
Katana's going to be in there. I think Black Lightning's daughter, Thunder, is going to be in there.
Yeah. And it looks like a good series. I think some people have written this off as like, oh, this is pandering, but it is, I think, Black Lightning is a cool character. Certainly a character has been around for a long time. And I think I like the idea of DC, and I wish Marvel would do more of it too, of, taking some of these characters that have existed for decades within their own universe and doing more with them. I think, rather than create kind of brand new characters and trying to getting them going, they're putting effort into, Black Lightning and Katana and these existing people. And I think that's I'm hopeful for some good pieces to that. This whole series is kind of intended, or subtly intended, to be a companion to the history of the DC universe. Of course, the book that George Perez was on a long time ago, and hopefully it maintains some of the same flavor to it. But potentially this is a good thing. There's certainly ways it could go bad, but potentially this could be a pretty neat little title.
If I'm being honest with you, Perch, I can understand the skepticism of readers. I have skepticism myself. There is a lot of pandering going around in comics.
You bet.
It feels like a lot of creators are going woke, as they might call it, and it's constantly you're getting bashed over the head with politics and wanting to preach, maybe inform your worldviews rather than giving you an opportunity to see things from a different perspective. So I can see why people are apprehensive. I'm apprehensive. Yeah,
and keep make no mistake about it. I'm not trying to do a hey, everything is perfect kind of view here. I think that here the way I look at it is there's two roads. Now, chances are we'll get the second, but imagine for the moment if this title comes out And it's simply putting some of these characters on the stage and having them have big heroic moments, go up against some villains, do some big things that don't normally get to do that. I mean, Black Lightning, I think Brian Edward Hill has done an excellent run of that character over on Batman and the Outsiders. And I think having, that character getting elevated sounds great to me. I think having some good moments would be wonderful. So if it's a series that's going to take some of these characters and let them have their moment in the spotlight, I think that will be enjoyable and people would like it. And I think they avoid any kind of woke label or whatever. I think they just get to have a good story. The other route here would be if it's, intended to kind of expose the dark history of the DC universe, them battling racism and other pieces. And they kind of take these very heroic individuals and show how they've had to struggle and show how that things have not been fair for them. Black Lightning is not given a seat at the Justice League table because of his race, those kinds of things. And I fear it will be that second one, because
there's a chance I'm going to get lectured to. And then, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. If it turns out that it's a lecture about the struggles, there's been a plenty of that. So I would hope it's that first route where we just get these characters, don't lecture, just have these characters be heroes and show how awesome they are doing amazing things. That would be a pretty great companion to the history of the DC universe, which was about showing kind of these characters having heroic moments, not exposing kind of the dark problems that the heroes have had to face. So that's what I'm hoping for. Now, I'm not a ignorant fool. I realize that the odds are it will be that second, but that's what I hope.
Yes, if we find out that the Green Lantern Corps was racist all along, I'm probably not going to be very happy. But there are some interesting things about the creative team. Obviously, the big name on it is John Ridley, and we're going to get to him in here in a second. But I do want to talk about the artist, Giuseppe Camo Camicoli. Obviously, Camo is his nickname because he's got a hard last name to pronounce. But he is the artist on Scott Snyder and Charles Soule's Undiscovered Country.
Yeah.
Does this mean that comic series going on hiatus? Or are they having to fill an artist? It feels like he wouldn't be able to do both projects. Or has he been doing it in the meantime?
I believe he's been working on this for a bit of time. I think that this has been in the works, although the art team did change. So the original art team announced back in 2018 is gone. This is a new art team. I believe this has been going on, though. There has been some work being done. I also think that Undiscovered Country is taking a brief hiatus. I think both things are true. So,
okay, that makes sense. Well, he's a really good artist. I'm glad that they got a top flight artist on here. Camo it was doing some great work over there in Undiscovered Country, and I think he could definitely, with this material, he can do some things that DC Comics are proud of.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think, and he can draw these characters really, really well. And I think I'm looking forward to seeing his Katana. I think, and just in general, I think he'll do a good job. This book should look beautiful. Now, the question is, will the story match?
Well, talking about the story, great segue into John Ridley. Like I said, he's mostly known for 12 Years a Slave and other screenwriting credits that he's done, but he has dabbled into comic books and even into the DC universe. I know he did an Authority run back in the day, but he's not specifically a comic book writer. But DC really has had him as a priority. I believe he was kind of earmarked to be writing the Batman series after it rebooted for 5G, Generation 5, whatever you want to call it, where Luke Fox kind of took over the cowl and became Batman. He was going to be the Batman writer. So it feels like DC has prioritized him to bring him into the stable and give him a project.
Yeah, that was a rumor. Anyway, I think that he was going to have some fairly major involvement. I think they've wanted to work with Ridley. I mean, he's a good storyteller. His work is nuanced, and he's able to kind of bring a lot to the table in terms of stories. I think maybe a good analogy here is that DC is viewing him like Marvel was viewing Joss Whedon, where Joss Whedon did a couple comics and ultimately got that astonishing X-Men run that they promoted very heavily. And so I think they view him kind of the same light of somebody outside of comics that they see as a very hot writer who can draw attention. I think for this project, Ridley's going to definitely draw attention, draw articles, all those things. It's something that I think they definitely want to put in their wheelhouse. But the question is, I think Whedon did himself a bit of a favor with Astonishing X-Men by telling in many cases a very core X-Men title. You may have loved it or not, but it was a core adventure story that they pulled off there. The question is now, will Ridley do the same with this book?
Well, it's interesting, Joss Whedon with what he had worked on prior to that. When you're talking about Buffy and Angel and Firefly, I'm not sure if that one had happened prior to that, but he had done a lot of like adventure storytelling, sequential storytelling, kind of story arcs. John Ridley, while he has, like I said, he did some work on Authority and he has done some comic book work.
Not nearly as much.
He's not really Joss Whedon. I'd almost hate to do the comparison, but more like a Ta-Nehisi Coates, where he's an important voice in entertainment now, and they want to kind of bring him in. Hopefully he takes the Joss Whedon route and writes exciting adventures and doesn't do the Ta-Nehisi Coates route where it's kind of boring, not really made for comic book, reading.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this project rolls off. And there's parts that, when you read these press releases, there's reason for optimism and pessimism almost simultaneously. The optimism is it's saying we want to create some top light Black Lightning moments. We want to really kind of peel back the character and kick off the series with some huge heroic moments. That sounds positive. I'm okay. I'm on board with that. But then you hear some then on the other hand you say when we get to Katana, we're talking about really want to dig into kind of the way Japanese individuals were suspect in the U.S. and dig into that piece. And that feels like it's playing more into kind of what Ta-Nehisi Coates does often in the book. Book ended with Black Lightning's daughter, Anissa Pierce, saying we're going to get into her experience as a woman of color, a young woman for the LGBTQ community. Are we making hero moments or are we making essays? And hopefully it's the hero moments and not the essays. But
I'm with you. Obviously, we don't know until the comic book has come out. I do have trepidation. I believe rightfully so from what I've seen from the industry. I do have more confidence in DC than I have in Marvel, but I don't have that much more confidence.
Yeah. I think that's. I mean, we'll see. What comic books need right now, whether you're DC, Marvel, anyone, they need good, memorable, heroic stories that are anchors, that are going to take people and kind of elevate characters and give them big moments to remember. The deconstruction, the kind of dragging these characters through the mud, making them deal with harder issues. I'm not saying you get away from that completely. You don't want to remove those, but the balance has tilted so far in that direction that we're getting less and less of those kind of heroic moments. And if you're trying to do stories about heroes and you don't have those heroic moments, it's just eventually you're devaluing the whole character. So, you got to find a balance here. And I think comics have definitely swung too far in one direction. And we've got to bring back, what make these characters exciting to show up to the table with in the first place. I think that, I keep going back, Katana, Black Lightning, the question with, I think Renee Montoya is potentially a really interesting, complex, deep character. The question is, are you gonna lean into kind of her detective skills and kind of her tragedies and things she's going into, or are you going to lean into what it's like for her to be Latina and gay? I think is going to give you more long-lasting character value. The other, not only has been covered so many times, it doesn't add anything new. And so if you've got somebody like John Ridley coming on, who's got to get a lot of attention and a big name, you hope that something new is being brought to these characters. It's the whole point of the series. It's the history. It's the other history. So we want some new things brought to this comic. But like you, I hope for the best. I expect less than that.
So I do want to segue over into Generation 5. Obviously, this is not a Generation 5 video, but we have seen, I believe it was the Generation 0 Free Comic Book Day story was kind of rolled into the Flash Forward trade paperback as kind of an add-on to that release, which I think was cool. But then we've seen, I think it was a portion of Year 1, which was solicited but never came out, has been rolled into, I believe it's Detective Comics 1027, which will be the anniversary of 1,000 issues of Batman in Detective Comics. Mm-hmm. I'm starting to get the feeling that they're getting rid of the 5G, the Generation 5 stuff that they have available, trying to kind of piece it out to where they can. Has it been dropped totally? Is it still going to be an imprint within DC Comics?
I don't think they're going to do the imprint. I mean, the last time we talked, there was still all the signs that they were going to do kind of a limited series or a special event, and that was still what was being said. Now it looks like these stories are just getting kind of, like you said, they're getting pieced out, into the comics. Detective Comics will have the intended the generation story inside of it. I think at this point, and with everything that's also happened, they're just going to slim down to the core, and it's over. So, I mean, never call it till you do. I mean, this other history of the DC universe was announced as dead last year by a lot of people because it just hadn't come out. It hadn't shown up on solicitations. So, everybody believed it was over, and here it is. So, maybe some of these things come back, but there seems to be zero appetite for it now.
It feels like DC Comics wants everyone to forget about Generation 5. They keep sneaking it off. They're like, okay, yeah, we got rid of it. And don't mention it again. It's not coming out. It definitely feels like it's not going to be that imprint where you get a 5G G5 logo on your issue of Batman. And, this 3-issue story is intended to be in that universe. I feel like it's dead. I think they just want it to die.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's come to an end at this point. So, for all the people who are hating it, there you go. I think you heard it here. Our prediction is that it's over, but we'll see.
That is the impression I'm getting. Perch, I definitely want to thank you for coming on the channel and talking about this. There's potential here for something, groundbreaking and amazing. There's also potential for rehash of things that have kind of been dogging the comic book industry for, quite frankly, almost a decade now. So,
yep, absolutely.
I do want to say this: if you enjoyed Perch's takes, he does 2 or 3 of these a day on his own channel, Comics by Perch, and there should be an icon to go and subscribe to his channel here in about 5 or 6 seconds. And I definitely recommend that. He's a great dude, and he has wonderful information and takes on the comic book industry.
Well, thank you very much, and likewise, this is a great channel, and always happy to be part of it and help you out.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.